Hello and welcome to my first actual ChromaCore Online devlog. In this I basically do basic project setup, setting up the characters, some basic weapons, and a little bit of multiplayer replication. I'm not going to spend too much time in the intro, so let's just get straight to it. So first of all, to create the project, I didn't use any templates so far, like the third person or first person, because I don't really need any of that. I don't need any of the assets because later on I do add the starter animation which comes with all the meshes I need. So I started by just creating the simple character class, which derives from Unreal's built-in character, and just add in some basic input movement and stuff, as well as adding one simple basic rifle kind of gun. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention I am using C++. Yeah, I get it, it's so outdated and everyone uses blueprints. Well, let me just say,
I'm very sorry and I apologize for the inconvenience of me not giving up.
anyway, let's just go straight to the montage. So here I'm creating the movement functions for moving to the sides and moving forward, which will be called in the function for setting up the player input binds. So here's where I bind the lines in C++ code to whichever key, so basically setting up key binds. As you can see, the name of the bind in the C++ code is exactly the same as the name of the keybind in the project settings as well. Here I start creating the camera component, which I will implement in blueprints, which is basically a camera that follows the player's movement and direction. In order to make sure that this gun C++ class is functional, I created an instance of it in blueprints. And I programmed a basic fire function, which is pretty easy. The line trace refused to work. Well, actually it was working. I just forgot to show the debug lines, so I didn't think it was. Yeah, not off to a good start. I know I could use a projectile system like you might see in the first person template in Unreal, but that requires having a separate projectile class and have to add its projectile physics and manage a bunch of different things and make sure I don't get any null pointer exceptions and blah blah blah. And I really don't want to worry about that stuff yet. Plus, for now, I'm not really interested in having bullet drop. So anyway, I got the line trace working and the basics of the gun were finished. Next, I added some basic health, simple enough. Just a current health and max health variable, and so the current health would constantly be updated every time you take damage. And speaking of take damage, I also need to override the take damage function, which was pretty simple and required 0 efforts because I did in blueprints. Just kidding, blueprints is actually amazing. Well, I actually do have a handle damage function in C++, but that just checks if the health is it basically just clamps the health. So if the health is negative or if it's more than the max health, then it'll kind of keep it between 0 and max health, you know, simple stuff like that. I want to use C++ for the important variables and functions, and blueprints I'm leaving for things like widgets and creating advanced sessions for Steam, which I'll get to in the next devlog. Anyway, the shooting mechanics were almost ready, but there was only one thing I need to do: replicate them. I thought it would be annoying as hell at first, but it was actually pretty easy, especially since I was using C++. I find replicating things in C++ a little easier because I can kind of see the validation functions and things like that. All I needed to do was create a class for handling the hit results of the trace and create a replicated function and variable to use them. But for the fire function, I wanted the server to handle firing rather than the client, because I don't want the client determining whether shots resulted in a hit or anything, because obviously that would make it way easier to cheat. So I created a server fire function using the Unreal's U function, and used the with validation keyword to create two functions: server fire implementation, which is void and just calls the fire function I created earlier, and server fire validation, which returns true. I don't actually know the whole implementation slash kind of validation system in Unreal, but hey, it worked. Also, around this time, I replicated the health variable and added a widget to show the health, and it works for both players as well, so both players could damage each other. And I added in a quick death variable, which would just update to true in the handle damage function if the health was less than or equal to 0. I know all of the clamping health and all, I didn't need to do it in a separate function. I could do it in tick, but I feel like I want to leave tick as empty as possible, because just to optimize performance. Plus, I won't really need to update the health when I'm not taking damage, right? So, well, that's pretty much it for this devlog. This is just me setting up a basic project, like creating characters, character movement, making sure movement is replicated and all, and also creating replicated guns which fire using Unreal's line trace, as well as a basic health variable which just updates upon taking damage, and a death variable which also gets replicated. Anyway, I'm gonna be wrapping up here, so please like and subscribe, and I will see you very, very soon.